Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs. We're on day 12 of our tags, and we did all 11 and I did 2 the last time. I'm going to fast forward this and go ahead and go through the process. This is what we've done before. What we're doing now is we are using scrapbook paper as our background. And I'm kind of showing you this. This is a very old paper pad. I don't think you can get it, but it kind of has a mixed media vibe to it already. It's got some texture and some different colors, etc. So it kind of helps us out a little bit because we're already a couple layers in. We're going to be using this chipboard tag, and it's from Tim Holtz, and you can still get those. And then this is a print from My Porch Prints. And I'm going to use this Santa in, I guess he's looking through the window inside this frame. And basically these 2 other scrapbook papers. They are a little bit textured, and it's kind of pink and blue, and it has the colors in it. So I think it's going to work. We'll see. In the end, you'll see. Really, you can't see much of the paper by the time I get done, but that's kind of how it is. So first off, we're going to be using this sleigh, and I picked it because I like the colors in it mainly, but I thought you'd be able to see Santa's sleigh, and in the end, you can't even see it. So, but I'm going through the process of making sure that a couple of the sleighs are in the middle of the tag, which you'll see in the end. Again, doesn't matter. Okay, but so I'm doing that, trying to position where it is, and putting the tag on so that it will be centered where I want it to be. I'm using glue stick because I'm going to sew around it, and the reason I like to use glue stick is in that way I can just, within minutes it'll be dry. So I sewed around it, and I positioned them fine, but you'll see later why that was a little bit futile. So now I'm worried about what I'm going to do with my chipboard. And I use these frames all the time. They're really, because they're lightweight, and they're not overly ornate, so you can use them. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm basically just going to glue the frame onto this scrapbook paper and then cut around it because I like the colors in it. They go really well with what I'm trying to do. It's got a little bit of the blue in it. It's got a little of the pink, and I think it'll look good. I'm just trying not to. I was looking around for different papers to use, and I didn't want anything too whimsy. I kind of wanted it more of a Victorian rustic look in the end. And lo and behold, I had this paper that I completely forgot about. So anyway, all I did is glue it down with our glitter glue, and I'm going to let it dry. I kind of cut around it, but not all the way. I'm looking at my big part of my tag because I'm letting that dry completely before I start handling it and try to mess with it. So I've got some distressed oxide out, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more color to the tag. I can't just leave it alone. And so I'm going to add a little bit of the distress oxide to the edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more to the whole tag, just to kind of add a little bit more color to it. So I do that, and I add some vintage photo and some walnut stain. And I used Victorian velvet and tattered rose and something patina. I don't remember. I'll have to look and see because honestly can't remember. Salvage patina. So I used that because it was kind of the color that that blue. It's kind of a turquoisey blue. So anyway, we're doing that. And I am taking another brush and taking a little bit of the vintage photo and going over the tag, because even though it has kind of a Victorian aged look, it looks kind of a little bit white in spots, and I don't want that white. Again, by the time I get done with it, it probably wouldn't have mattered if I did that or not, but that's just, I guess it's just a habit. I make sure that I got everything the way I like it before I add the next layer. So now I'm taking the Victorian Velvet, and I'm just adding some throughout the tag, so it has a little bit of pink here and there. And you do see a little bit of that when the tag is done, but not very much. So I'm just kind of adding it. Okay, so now I'm going to mess with this frame, and I'm just cutting it with scissors, fussy cutting it just like you would anything else. It's not that hard. And then I went ahead and just took my utility knife and cut an X in the middle. And now I'm just going to use it to cut around the inside, which is super easy because you've got chipboard there, and I even have a very dull blade on there. So, and it's doing a pretty good job. So now I'm just taking my sanding block, and I would have probably used my nail file, but I couldn't find it. So anyway, that just took off all any of the other edges. It comes right off. It's not any kind of a problem. So now I'm just putting some walnut stain on the edges, just because it's kind of that gray color, on the edges, and you don't want it to show. So now I'm taking a little bit of the Distress Oxide Salvage Patina, and I'm adding a little bit of that to the to this pink, just so that it has a little bit more blue in it. And it's kind of, the ink is kind of catching on the white portions of it. So I think that's kind of a good thing. And I had the covers mixed up on the oxide and the ink. So, but anyway, I used the ink and the oxide. The ink is more translucent. So then I sprayed a little bit of water on it because I wanted it to kind of blend together a little bit. That's kind of why I did the ink and the oxide. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little of my Rub and Buff, and it's Silver Leaf, and I'm just going to take that. I put it on my gel plate. I just use it as a palette sometimes so things don't dry as fast. And I'm going to take that and basically just do the outside of my big tag with it, because the color that I'm using with this a lot is a lot of silver and pink. And you'll see that throughout the whole thing. And I'm just going to go around the whole edge and use my fingers. And, I'm not covering all of the distress stain that I put on or anything. And then I'm taking a little tiny bit of it, very small amount, and just putting it on the raised portions of this tag so that you will see the silver in the background. I know a lot of times when I do layers like this, it seems like it's a lot and you can't see it. But when you do layers, you can see it. You just don't even realize you're seeing it because it's just layered on top of each other, and it's a complete look. And now all I'm doing is taking the silver and going around the edges, even though I did the walnut stain. And the reason I do that too is that I don't go perfectly around the edges with the walnut stain, and I don't go perfectly around with the silver. All right, so now that I'm going to figure out where I want my picture to sit. And I do realize this has a line in it with the window, but this is just the Santa that I wanted in there, and I thought it looked really cool. So now I'm kind of figuring where I want it on my tag, and I'm getting my glue. I'm using my art glitter glue, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it on there. So we have our colors, and it doesn't look bad just the way it is, but I've got to do more. So and that's the fun part, guys, is the layering and the looking at it and looking back. And I kind of have a plan, but I never know everything that I'm going to do until I'm completely done. So okay, so now I knew I wanted to add a little bit of blingy things on there. So I have these little, and they're not real glittery or anything. These little kind of turquoisey color that go with this little swirls. And I'm going to put those on possibly. And then I have these flowers. And I was originally going to put 3 on there, but it was just really, it was more than it needed. I actually put 2, and I'm shocked because I almost always have to put 3 on things. Or to me, it looks messed up. But in the end, I'll tell you why it works because of something else I do, and you'll see. Okay, so pretty much I'm just positioning where I want the flowers, and I decide I want them in the corner. And then I have this greenery that I had cut out, and it's just some Tim Holtz dyes that I did, and it's kind of random greenery that I'm putting in there because I want it to just be kind of hanging out of the sides and going up the side of the frame. And you'll see I do something to that later too, but I think that's really important. It just kind of completes the look. Otherwise, it just looks like you just stuck on some flowers and that was it. And it's not part of a composition. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting them all in there and getting the glue in there. And, that takes a little bit. But deciding where you want something and the position you want it in sometimes can just take a while. And then I found some other little leaves I want to stick in there because I want to layer them. I don't want to just have one sticking out here and there. I would like to have several. And so anyway, I'm doing that. And now I'm going to work with my little, I wouldn't say they're pearly things. They're just kind of little turquoise little beads. And they're very delicate. And I don't know if you've ever worked with these, but they have all these little swirls. But I don't ever think that you have to use them the way that they are. I always cut them up and take pieces, and because ultimately what happens on me most of the time, I'm layering things, so you're not going to see the whole thing anyway. So you're going to see portions of it, and it's just the layering effect that it gives. So I'm going to put those on and find different ways for the swirly things to fit and cut off the ones that won't. And I do that pretty much all the way around. And you'll see I just cut them apart and save all the other little pieces because you'll use them. I love using things like this, and when I always buy them when they're on sale. I never pay full price, and I get them when I don't need them. I just see them on sale. I get a whole bunch, and then, I have them handy when I want to use them. The same with the flowers. I would never pay full price for those flowers. I think I got them at Hobby Lobby on clearance, and usually it's, a whole package less than $2. I'm not going to pay, $6, $7, $8 for those flowers. But they're always very, very handy to have when you want to use them. So now I'm just taking some matte texture paste, some Ranger matte texture paste, and I am going over all of the leaves that I put down, all of the greenery, and I'm putting just globs down basically to make it look like snow had fallen on it. And I'm going to do some of that on the flowers and all over the tag. And this really, really, to me, completes the look when we're done. But there's several other things I do on top of that, but that really kind of pulls it all together. It keeps it from looking like you just stuck some things down on something and it looks like it was, all blending together. Is the snow and, the silver and the cohesiveness of that. So I'm just kind of putting, little dabs here and there, some clumps here and there. I concentrate a lot of it on the flowers and the greenery and kind of the top of the tag and the bottom. And I make sure I get some on the actual frame itself and in the different spots where I have the little bling and everything else, because I just want to make sure that it all looks like, snow had fallen from the top down. So I'm just pretty much putting clumps on there. Now this dries not really white. It dries kind of almost a translucent. So what I'm going to do is I am now going to add some embossing powder to this texture paste. And I think I said it was matte medium before. It's texture paste. Sorry. Ranger texture paste. Matte. It's not the crackle. Anyway, so what I do is I add Glacier White embossing powder to the wet texture paste. You don't have to have embossing powder. You just have to have something wet. And so it's sticking to that. So what it's going to do is it'll stick to everywhere I put the texture paste. And so those clumps of snow will then look white and it won't look, translucent. And what'll also happen too is you'll have little tiny spots here and there. And if you notice, I don't work really hard to get them all off. I'm not brushing it all off. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And that's because it doesn't matter to me if those white little spots are all over, because it looks like snow. Okay, so now I'm going to take an embossing pen and I'm going to be more detailed as to where I'm embossing now. And what I'm doing is I'm dipping this pen in. This is an older one that I had, and it almost acts like a paintbrush. So I'm dipping the embossing pen in my Versamark because it's not real juicy anymore, but this acts more like a paintbrush. And I'm just taking it and I'm putting it in spots that I want to do my embossing. So I'm kind of going over it in different areas. And that way I have some control. So now I'm putting this clear sparkle on. It's Wow Clear Sparkle. I really like this stuff. I'm almost out of it. But it's really doesn't have a color and it really adds a lot of sparkle. So pretty much I just added it wherever I had the snow. Okay, so now what I decided I'm going to do is I thought we need a little bit of pink on top of the frame. So I took these 3 pink pearls that I had and I'm just going to glue those down. As I said, I kind of like take it, look at it, come back. It's hard for me to ever be done, but at some point, you have to. Okay, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and put my eyelid in, but I don't like the color of it. I want it to be more silver. So I'm taking my silver Rub and Buff Silver Leaf, and I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on it, and that will basically make it the color that I want it. So, and I'm also taking my bulb pen and my number 12, and I'm going to do that to all of them. The 12 is kind of a silver. It's more of a pewter, and I'm adding a little bit of that to there. And then since I have some on my finger, well, I'm not going to let it go to waste. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in a few places on the frame, just because. Okay. So now that I've done that, I want to go ahead and put my lace through the top. And I've taken a really long piece of this vintage lace, and I'm going to tie a bow on top and position my bow right, get it the right size, all of that. I kind of want it draping over the top, but I don't want it just to hang in the middle of my Santa's face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it with glue, and you could do this with hot glue, but I like using the fabric tack because I don't like big blobs of glue anywhere, and it gives me time to work with it a little bit too. It's not so instant, but it's pretty quick grabbing, so you're not waiting there holding it for days. So I'm pretty much using my 3-in-1 glue or fabric tack, same thing, and I'm positioning where I want this this lace to go down the side of the tag on each side. So it takes a little bit. You gotta have to hold it, gather some up, put it where you want it. And that's kind of why I don't like using hot glue with it, because positioning is kind of a process to me. It's not something that I can instantly go, okay, that's where it needs to be. I kind of have to do it, look at it, move it around. And the 3-in-1 or the fabric tack will give you some time. You could certainly use, like tacky glue or white glue too. But this stuff does grab pretty quick, so that way you're not worrying about it. I'm making sure there's no glue or anything on the Santa. So I like where that is. But of course, that's not going to be enough. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking out my white glue, and basically this glue is just a little watered down tacky glue, which is just white PVA glue. And I'm just taking it and I'm painting my lace that's down the side with it. And the reason I'm doing that is for two reasons. One, what it's going to do is it's going to adhere it better to the sides, because the 3-in-1 just kind of tacked it down. But this is going to kind of make it solid, and it's also going to stiffen it to where it still looks like lace and draping, but it's not going to move and it's not going to come off. But I'm also going to be adding some glitter on top of it. I have a very fine pink glitter that I absolutely love, the perfect shade, and I am going to be adding that on top of this bow, and I'm also going to add some to my flowers that I have on the frame. So that is pretty much why I'm putting the glue everywhere. And the cool thing is that when it stiffens up like that, it stiffens up, in place. So it still looks real drapey. It doesn't look real stiff. Anyway, so now I'm going to put my fine pink glitter on. And I know some of you are going, oh my God, it's too much. But it's very fine. And I'm only putting it basically on the lace and the flowers. And I put a little tiny bit of dusting of it at the bottom of the tag, just because I wanted to bring some pink down in it at the bottom. So, and then I'm just taking a brush and dusting off anywhere I don't want, or I think there's too much or whatever. Okay, so now that I've done that, I am going to also put, because my glue is still wet, I'm going to put some mica flakes on, and the mica flakes have a completely different kind of shimmer to them than the glitter does. And it's just I don't know, it's very lightweight and it really has a different shimmer. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm taking my art glitter glue and I'm going around the inside of my frame with just a bead of glue all the way around, and I'm pushing it anywhere I need to with a brush, and I'm being careful not to get it anywhere else but the inside of my frame, because when you see what I do with it, you'll understand why it's important that it only go to that one place. Okay, so now I'm using some glass glitter, which is, this is Doris, but there's lots of brands out there, but it's very, very different than regular glitter. It has a very vintage look to it. In fact, that's what they used to use for glitter, not what we use now. And it's a lot heavier, but it really is a very cool vintage look. So anyway, I did it to the inside to kind of frame the Santa, and I think it looks good. So now what I'm doing is I decided I think I need more silver on the outside because it looks very unbalanced. So what I'm doing is I had put some embossing ink around the edges, and now I'm sprinkling some silver embossing powder. And I know that that's going to give me a lot stronger silver look than just the silver leaf Rub and Buff. So I think it'll balance out the silver from the glass glitter, and then the end of the tag. It just, to me, it didn't look balanced. I don't know how to explain it other than I just knew it needed more silver. Okay, so there's our finished tag. I think it turned out great. It was a lot of fun. I love doing the shabby tag. Definitely going to have to do more shabby ones. So thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe. Make a comment so you can be entered in the next giveaway. And we'll definitely be talking to you tomorrow. So guys, take care.